The market smelled like metal, smoke, and fear all around. Strange creatures stood inside cages. Their eyes followed the crowd as buyers walked past. Big aliens shouted prices, trading coins and data chips. Slaves were being sold, some with 6 arms, others with scales or tails. It was not a place for the kind-hearted. It was a place where hope came to die. Dax walked slowly, hands in his coat, watching. He had seen many auctions before. He wasn't planning to buy anyone today. He just came to look, or maybe trade. Fuel. But something felt different this time. His boots made soft thuds on the metal floor. The air was thick with tension. "Next!" shouted the auctioneer, a large green-skinned creature with 3 eyes. A cage rolled forward, covered with a dirty cloth. No one clapped. No one cheered. Instead, the crowd grew silent. With a heavy motion, the auctioneer pulled the cloth off. Inside was a small figure, curled in a ball. It was a girl, thin, shaking. Covered in dirt and bruises, her skin was a pale purple. But it was hard to tell under all the filth. Her hair was tangled and wet. Like old wires, she didn't speak, didn't cry, just stared at the floor. "She's the last one," the auctioneer grunted. No records, no owner, found floating in a broken escape pod. He looked around, clearly annoyed. "Come on, who wants her?" "Start at 1 credit. The crowd laughed. "Looks diseased," said one. "Probably mute," said another. "She's not worth 1 meal," someone else spat. Even the other slaves looked away. No one wanted to be near her. Dax kept watching. Something in the way she sat. It wasn't fear. It was something else. She wasn't weak. Not really. She was trying to hide. "No takers?" The auctioneer asked, already pushing the cage back. "We'll dump her with the trash then." "Wait," Dax said, his voice calm but loud. The crowd turned, surprised. The auctioneer raised one brow. "I'll take her," Dax said, stepping forward. "Why?" A merchant laughed. "You like dirty pets?" "Careful, human," someone else sneered. "She might bite." Dax ignored them. "She deserves a shower at least," he said simply. He pulled a credit chip from his pocket and tossed it toward the platform. The auctioneer caught it, still frowning. "Fine, she's yours. No refunds." 2 guards unlocked the cage and pushed the girl toward Dax. She stumbled, weak and slow, but didn't fall. Dax took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. She flinched, as if no one had touched her gently in years. "Can you walk?" he asked softly. She didn't answer, just nodded slowly. Her eyes met his for just 1 second. They were silver, glowing slightly, not normal, not like any species he had seen before. They walked away, leaving the market noise behind. People whispered as they passed, but Dax didn't care. He had done something strange today, even he knew that. Why did he buy her? She was a mystery, a forgotten thing, but something in her eyes stayed with him. Not just pain, there was something more, something deep, something powerful, something hiding beneath the dirt. He didn't know who she was, or what she had been through, but he had a feeling. This girl was not what she seemed, not even close. Dax didn't speak much as they walked through the docking bay. The girl followed him quietly, her bare feet dragging against the cold floor. She held his coat tightly around her, but still shivered. Everyone stared, but no one said anything. To them, she was still just a dirty thing, bought for nothing. They reached his ship, old but clean. Dax opened the ramp and let her in first. She paused, looking around like she had never seen walls without bars. Inside, warm lights hummed softly, and the air smelled of real food. Her eyes darted to the ceiling, the corners, then to Dax. She didn't trust anything, not even the quiet. He led her to the small bathroom at the back of the ship. He turned on the water, steam rising quickly. The girl stepped back, alarmed. She didn't understand the sound at first. Then she moved closer, slowly reaching her hand under the flow. Warm water touched her skin, and she gasped. It had been so long, maybe years, since she had felt something clean. She looked at Dax, unsure. He nodded and stepped out, leaving a clean towel and clothes behind. The door closed, and for a moment, the ship was silent. Then the sound of water running filled the halls. Dax sat down at the control panel and rubbed his eyes. What was he doing? He wasn't a rescuer, not a hero, but when he saw her back in that cage, something clicked. She reminded him of something, maybe someone, maybe himself, long ago. Time passed, and the water finally stopped. She didn't come out right away. He waited, wondering if she was okay. Then the door opened slowly, and she stepped out. Dax stood up in surprise. She didn't look like the same creature he had bought. Her skin, once hidden by dirt, now glowed faintly with soft patterns, like light moving beneath the surface. Her hair, once matted, now shimmered in dark waves. But her eyes were the same, wide, quiet, watching everything. She held the towel tightly. Her body still thin and weak. She didn't speak. Not yet. But she looked at him, this time not with fear, with a kind of curiosity. He offered her a seat and some warm broth. She sat, slowly, her fingers trembling as she lifted the cup. She took one sip and closed her eyes. Tears rolled down her face. But she made no sound. Dax didn't ask questions. Not yet. He knew what it felt like to be hunted, to be afraid. He would give her time. They sat in silence, broken only by the soft hum of the ship. After a long pause, she finally spoke. Her voice was soft, dry. "They're coming," she whispered. Dax blinked. "Who's coming?" he asked. She looked at him, her eyes full of something he couldn't name. "People who made me," she said. "They don't want me back, they want me gone." Dax's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? Who are you?" She shook her head slowly. "I don't know," she said. "But I remember. Pain, needles, light, and running." Her hand gripped the edge of the seat. "They said I was broken," she added. "Not useful." Dax felt something twist in his chest. She wasn't just a girl lost in space. She was made, tested, and then thrown away. He knew now. This was no normal rescue. He didn't just buy a slave. He pulled a secret out of the shadows, and now the shadows might follow him. Outside the ship, the stars looked peaceful. But Dax had a feeling that peace wouldn't last long, not after today, not with her aboard. Dax dreamed of fire. He saw metal doors melting and screams trapped behind glass. He woke up with a jolt, heart pounding, skin damp with sweat. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then he remembered. The girl, the auction, the whisper. "They're coming." The ship was quiet, lights dimmed to sleep mode. Dax walked barefoot to the common room, rubbing his eyes. And there she was, sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at a blinking light panel like it was the sun. Her eyes followed the rhythm, slow and calm. She didn't notice him at first, or maybe she did, but didn't care. "You don't sleep?" he asked, voice low. She blinked, then looked at him. "I don't dream," she replied. Her voice was a little clearer now, less dry, more human, but her words felt older than her face. Dax sat down across from her, back against the wall. For a while, neither of them said anything. Then he asked what he had been holding back. "What do you remember?" "Before the auction." She tilted her head, fingers brushing over the light panel. "Pain first," she said. "Then light, then cold." Dax waited, letting her speak at her own pace. "I was in a white room," she continued. "People in suits walked around me, writing things, watching." Her voice lowered. "They said I was unstable. They didn't like my eyes. They said I felt wrong." Dax frowned. "Did they hurt you?" She looked at him, not with sadness, but with something close to confusion. "I think that was the point," she said. "They were testing things." "What kind of things?" She shook her head. "I don't know, but I remember. Wires in my skin, voices in my ears, numbers." She held out her arm, and Dax noticed a faded line, too straight to be a scar from injury, more like surgical. He stood and walked to his control console. "Computer, pull up recent escape pod logs." He commanded. The screen blinked, then showed a list, mostly junk. But one entry stood out, classified, biocontainment. No ID, no details, just redacted lines. Dax narrowed his eyes. He had flown through thousands of star systems, and he knew a cover-up when he saw one. The girl appeared beside him silently, staring at the same screen. "That's me," she said. Dax looked at her. "How do you know?" "I saw it in a dream. Before I woke up in the cage," she whispered. "I remember a voice. It said, 'Terminate test subject if recovery fails.'" Dax's blood ran cold. Whoever had her wasn't just experimenting. They were discarding. Failures, and they had thrown her away like trash, hoping no one would ask questions. But now she was on his ship, breathing, watching, remembering. He leaned in, trying to find more information. But the system blocked every attempt. "Whatever." "You are," he muttered. "Someone important wants you gone." She looked down, her hands glowing faintly for just a second. Then it stopped. "I didn't ask to be made," she said quietly. "But now I don't know what else I am." He reached out and gently touched her arm. "You're not a thing," he said. "You're a person, even if they tried to break you." She looked at him, as if trying to decide whether to believe him. Then, very softly, she nodded. The ship suddenly gave a soft beep. A proximity alert. Something was entering scanner range. Dax turned back to the console. Nothing on radar, but the ship was being scanned, silently. Like a ghost passing through space, he tapped the screen, rerouting shields, preparing just in case they found me, she whispered. Her voice was calm, but her hands clenched the edge of the table. Dax didn't ask how she knew. He could feel it too. This wasn't over, not even close, and now, whatever she wasn't forgotten anymore. Asterisk. Dax heard a soft hum in the hallway. Not the engine, not the lights, it was something alive. Something breathing through metal. He stepped toward the sound, slow and careful. The corridor lights flickered once, then returned to normal. He reached the doorway to the girl's room. It was half open, steam curling out into the ship like morning fog. Inside she was floating, not standing, not jumping, floating. Her body hovered a few inches above the floor, hair moving like it was underwater. The air around her shimmered like heat rising from fire. And her skin, it was glowing again, only this time brighter, like stars were trapped beneath the surface. Her eyes were closed, her lips moving slightly. Dax didn't understand the words, but they didn't sound like any language he knew. There was rhythm to them, a pattern, like a machine whispering to itself. Suddenly she dropped, the glow vanished, and she gasped, falling to her knees. Dax rushed in. "Hey, are you all right?" She looked up at him, eyes wide with something between fear and awe. "I didn't mean to," she said. "It just happened." He helped her sit against the wall. Her skin was cold now, too cold. She clutched her arms tightly, trying to stop the shaking. "I had a dream," she whispered. "But I was awake." "What did you see?" Dax asked. "A place," she said, "full of glass and wires. And other girls, just like me." Her voice cracked, but they didn't move. Dax felt the weight of her words settle deep in his chest. She wasn't the only one, but she might be the last one. She closed her eyes. "I think I was made to break things," she whispered. "To melt walls, crush ships, kill targets." He looked at her, not with fear, but with something harder to describe. Not pity, not sympathy, recognition. He had seen weapons dressed as soldiers before. He had fought in wars where people were numbers, but this was different. She wasn't holding a gun. She was the weapon. And still she cried. Still she trembled. "If that's true," he said, "then why are you crying about it?" She looked at him, surprised by the question. "Because I don't want to be that," she said. "I never chose this." "Then don't be," Dax replied. "Choice is what makes us more than tools." She sat there quietly, watching him like he was saying something she never believed could be true. Then her head tilted, just slightly. "I feel something," she said. Dax's hand moved to the control panel, tapping quickly. He checked the outer sensors. Nothing, no ships, no signals. But his fingers trembled. The ship lights flickered again. But this time, something new happened. The artificial gravity pulsed for a second, like a heartbeat. Then one of the lights above them cracked. Not exploded, cracked, with lines that glowed faintly blue. Ares, that's the name she whispered to him last night, stood up, slowly. Her body was steady again, like the fear had drained out of her and left only focus. I think I can control it, she said, voice calm but strange. Control what? She opened her hand, and a small ball of light flickered into existence. It hovered above her palm, humming quietly like a sleeping engine. It's not just energy, she said, it's memory too. Dax stared at the light, and for a moment, he saw images inside it, a face, a lab, a code written in alien symbols. Then it vanished. I don't know how to explain it, she said. But I think. It put everything in me, and then tried to delete it. She looked up. They didn't want me to remember what I really am. Dax took a step back. Not from fear, but from understanding. She wasn't dangerous because she was broken. She was dangerous because she was complete, whatever she had been designed for. She hadn't finished becoming it. And now, the choice was hers, she whispered again. Something is unlocking inside me. Dax knew he didn't have much time. Whatever had made her, whatever had lost her, they would come looking, and this time, they wouldn't ask for her back. They would erase her completely. He looked at her, this girl glowing softly in the shadows of his ship, and he made a choice. He wouldn't run. Not this time. The silence came before the danger. It was the kind of silence that didn't feel empty. It felt like something was holding its breath. Dax sat at the control panel, eyes locked on the blinking screen. The radar was clean, too clean. Space was. Never empty. Even dead space had dust, echoes, background noise. But now everything was still. Like the universe had stopped turning for a moment. Ari stood behind him, not speaking, not moving. Her hands were at her sides, but her eyes were closed. She was listening to something Dax couldn't hear. Then she whispered, "They're here." The screen flickered once, then again, still no ship visible. But the system was fighting something. Invisible scans, ghost signals, pressure on the edges of the sensors. Dax tapped buttons fast, trying to reroute power to shields, but the system dragged, slow like thick oil. "They're jamming me," he muttered. Smart tech. Silent drive, no ID. Aris opened her eyes, and for the first time, she looked afraid again. "They're not just soldiers," she said. "They're cleanup teams." Dax looked at her, confused. "Clean up for what?" "For people like me," she answered. "For mistakes." A soft thud echoed through the hull, then another. Not explosions, more like careful steps landing on metal. Dax ran to the storage locker, pulled out a blaster and tossed a smaller one to Aris. She didn't take it. "I don't need that," she said quietly. He didn't ask what she meant. He just nodded. The ship lights dimmed, one by one. Emergency power flicked on red, blinking, pulsing like a warning. Then door to the cargo bay opened. 3 figures entered. Black armor, smooth helmets with no faces. No words, no sound. They moved like shadows, with perfect coordination. Dax fired first, instinct taking over. The blast hit one figure square in the chest, but it didn't fall. Just staggered, then kept walking. Energy-absorbing suits. Aris whispered, "They don't kill you, they erase you." She stepped forward, bare feet on cold metal. The lead figure raised a hand, and a pulse of energy shot out toward her. It never reached her. The air around her bent, shimmered, and the pulse broke apart in midair, like glass against invisible armor. Iris raised her hand slowly, and the floor beneath the black figures began to tremble. Then came the sound, a low hum, not from the ship, from her. The walls shook, lights flickered blue, and every system on the ship blinked at once. Dax stared in disbelief. Aris wasn't just resisting. She was fighting with the ship. The black-armored soldiers raised weapons again, but this time, Aris moved first. She didn't run, didn't dodge. She expanded. Light burst from her skin in thin lines like cracks in glass. The floor rippled under her feet, metal shifting, warping, reacting to her presence. And then, in a single breath, the intruders were gone. Not dead, not destroyed, just gone, erased, like dust caught in a fire. The room went quiet again. Lights returned to normal. Dax lowered his blaster slowly, his hand shaking. He looked at her. And for a second, she didn't look like a girl. She looked like something ancient. Something made from stars and secrets. But then, she looked at him, and all of that faded, and she just looked tired. She sat down on the floor and said nothing. Her hands were smoking, not burning, just releasing whatever force had been inside. Dax knelt beside her, unsure what to say. "I didn't want to do that," she said, voice cracking. "I don't even know how I did." "You saved us," Dax said. "That's what matters." "No," she whispered. "I deleted them." She looked at her hands like they were not hers. "I didn't just stop them, I removed them, like they never existed." Dax sat back, breath caught in his chest. He had seen weapons, power, destruction. But this was different. This was erasure. She looked up at him, eyes glowing dimly. "I think I wasn't made to fight wars," she said. "I was made to end them." And in that moment, Dax knew. Whoever had created her hadn't built a weapon. They had built a reset button, asterisk. He hadn't slept. Not since the attack, not since she erased them. Dax sat alone in the cockpit. Fingers flying across the screen. Every system still buzzed from the power surge. The lights worked. The ship flew. But something deeper had shifted. Something in the data. The logs were full of static, errors that didn't belong, and tucked beneath them, a hidden file, sealed by military-grade encryption. He broke it open the way smugglers do. Slowly, painfully, but completely. There it was, Project Seraphim. He read the title 5 times before opening it. The file wasn't long, but every word felt heavy. It spoke of a government lab buried under a fake moon station. A secret operation meant to create the next step in universal deterrence. Not weapons, not bombs, not armies, but beings. Living constructs powered by alien code extracted from ruins no one talks about anymore. Subject names scrolled across the screen, numbers beside them, all marked terminated, except one, A016. Status, lost. He didn't need to guess. He didn't need to look at her to know. Iris was A016. She hadn't escaped. She had been erased from the system on purpose, thrown away like a broken experiment. Not because she failed, but because she worked too well. He leaned back, breath stuck in his throat. They made her with ancient tech, old gods of the stars, scripts no one understood. They played with forces they couldn't name, and when they saw what she could do, they panicked. Behind him, a voice said softly, "You found it." Dax turned, and she stood there in the doorway. Silent as always. He didn't ask how she knew. She always knew. He nodded slowly. "I found your file." Iris stepped closer. Her eyes unreadable. They were. "Afraid of what I might become," she said. "Were they right?" Dax asked, not accusing, just asking. "I don't know," she said. "But they never gave me a chance to find out." She looked at the screen, at her number, A016. It didn't even have her name. "Is that all I am to them?" she asked. "A number in a failed project?" "You're more than that," Dax said. "You're still here." She sat beside him, pulling her knees to her chest. "I remember now," she whispered. "The tests, the simulations, the missions they never let me finish." Her voice dropped lower, almost shaking. "They made me watch 1,000 ways to kill a world. They showed me how to break atmospheres, how to reverse gravity, how to bend time at the edge of light." Dax closed the screen. He didn't want to read more. He didn't want her to remember more. But she wasn't crying. Not now. She was angry, not loud, not wild, quietly burning. "They built me for war," she said. "But no one ever asked if I wanted to fight." He put a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to. But they're coming," she said. "The real ones this time. The ones who built the system. The ones who run it from behind clean desks and locked stars." Dax felt it in his bones. If the first wave was clean up, the next would be command. No suits, no hoods, just cold minds and long plans. "Then we run," he said. No, she replied. We show them what they made. Dax blinked. What do you mean? I'm done hiding, Ari said, standing slowly. I'm done being erased. And in her voice, there was something new. Not fear, not rage, clarity. She wasn't just remembering, she was becoming. The stars outside were quiet, but the silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It felt like the breath before lightning, the pause before history changed its shape. Dax stood by the window, staring at the edge of the system. The warning lights were already blinking. Something massive was coming, not just a ship, a fleet. And it wasn't here to rescue her. It was here to erase her, this time completely, behind him. Ares moved slowly. She wore no armor, no weapons. She didn't need them. She had changed again. Not just her appearance, something deeper. Her presence no longer felt small. She filled the room without making a sound. You can still run, Dax said, not turning. No one will blame you. I've been running all my life. She replied. I didn't even know it. She stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the floor. This time I stand, Dax looked at her, and for the first time, he didn't see the girl from the cage. He saw something born in fire and failure. He saw something the universe had never seen before. Not a mistake, not a weapon, a decision outside. The lead ship of the fleet uncloaked, a cold, perfect machine. No markings, no sound. Inside were people who had signed papers, pressed buttons, and called it science. They never expected one of their creations to survive. They certainly didn't expect her to remember. Ares walked to the center of the control deck and closed her eyes. Open the comms, she said. Dax hesitated, then pressed the button. The signal reached the fleet. No response, just a silent stare from 1,000 artificial eyes. She spoke anyway. You wanted to wipe me out, she said. You called me a failed file, a threat, a thing. Her voice was calm, but I'm not broken. I remember every test, every command you forced into my skin. I remember how you whispered weapon while watching me cry. She stepped forward, her body glowing softly now. But I chose to protect someone, not destroy. The fleet's main cannon began to charge. Dax saw it, his hands trembling. He reached for the controls. I can move us, he said. No. Ares replied, gently pushing his hand away. I'm done running. The cannon reached 90%. Her eyes opened, and they weren't glowing anymore. They were burning, not with heat, with clarity. I don't need to be what you made, she whispered into the open stars. I am something else now. The ship's lights surged. The walls pulsed like lungs. All systems responded to her, like she was not inside the ship, but part of it. Then, as the cannon fired, she raised one hand, and time slowed. Not stopped, just slowed enough for thought to move like wind. The energy from the cannon bent mid-air. It curved around her like light around a planet. Then it vanished. Not exploded, not redirected, erased. Dax felt it, even from behind. The space around her was folding, rewriting, becoming something new. Ares took one step forward, and her voice was no longer small. This ends now, and with that, the fleet began to shake. Not from attack, but from awakening. Every system linked to her, every AI, every signal, every forgotten command buried in the network. She reached into the code of the Empire itself, and she whispered one final instruction, let me go, and they did. The fleet powered down, silently, slowly, one by one. No explosions, no violence. Just surrender. Dax stood frozen. He watched the girl who was once a nameless slave. Now more than human, more than creation, a choice. Ares turned to him, eyes soft again. It's done, she said. They can't unmake me anymore, he smiled. No, he said, they can't. She looked at the stars, and for the first time, they looked open.